again, thank you for coming on. Please introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your idea of localism and how you came across it, I guess.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm Tony. I go on TikTok often and talk about politics, social stuff, relationship stuff. I go by the at moniker Middle Road Sanity. Although nowadays people just call me Tony on there, which is pretty cool. It feels like a real community that we've built there. Localism, to me, it is a Googleable term. You can find a Wikipedia page. You can find people talking about it. It's like all the other isms in that regard, but to me, localism implies something more than a political system. It's a way of life, and it's a very human first sort of approach to building civilization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to claim any ist or ism, I would say I'm a humanist and a localist. Like I want the quality of our collective lives to be as good as possible, like anybody. But in order to get there, I believe that that starts as close to home as possible
Yeah.
and then works its way outward, not a top-down sort of system. And I think that's localism to me is more of a necessary wheel in a greater machine
Mm-hmm.
than the machine itself.
Yeah.
So as we go through the conversation, I want to lead with that because some people think I'm trying to make a nationally sweeping institutionalized change towards
Right.
something called localism, and
Right.
that's not at all what's happening. So
Yeah, so I think that is a good place to start too, because I feel like I'm always seeing two sides of different coins. There's the left and the right, or, Republican, Democrat, communism, capitalism. So those are like the coins that we're always dealing with, and it's like, no, we're not talking about any of those things. We're just exiting the conversation entirely. Like, you know what? I'm not even operating in that space anymore because it just doesn't feel productive.
yeah, I think an interesting correlation I made, and that is so true. I'll start by saying the cycle is superiority.
Hmm.
It's people feeling like our way is the way, and the more everybody just trusts us and our vision, that we're going to get to some balanced society or even utopia sometimes. And it
Hmm.
just I've watched a ping pong ball go back and forth across the table so many times, and it's really just more imperialism dressed up in a different font and
Hmm.
flavor. It's
Hmm.
like Obama, when Obama's on TV and you see him being a diplomat,
Hmm.
it feels different than when it was George W. or when it's
Hmm.
Trump or when it was Biden when he could muster the energy to do
Hmm.
so. And it's like they each just have their own flavor, but we see the same trends
Yeah.
continuing over and over again, which is the extractive systems pull resources farther and farther away from the communities that generate them, and
Hmm.
they keep them in these upper echelons of economic hierarchies, and it's frustrating. And then the more you dig into history, of course, I always say pharaohs and slaves, kings and
Yeah.
peasants, and the 99 and 1%. That battle feels way older than capitalism and
Totally.
communism. It
Hmm.
just feels older than those things. So I think you're right in the sense of let's just exit that conversation and start to ask new questions like what can I do? What's missing
Hmm.
from my life, and how can I participate in civilization rather than just be a byproduct of it?
Yeah, and you focus a lot. I mean, obviously, your screen name is Middle Road Sanity. So, obviously, part of what you probably talk about is common ground and finding things that we can kind of all agree on. Do you feel like you talk a lot about that, or do you feel like you kind of just focus more on how everybody's feeling a similar way? Because I think a lot more people are picking up on the narrative that it's like, hey, we're all struggling. And I think that's the reason why we ended up with the president that we ended up with, because he was a different kind of performance. And
That's
so
right.
people were like, oh, well, he doesn't look like the people that I'm used to, so maybe he has the answers to make my life not suck. So a lot of people are tapping into the narrative of like, well, all of our lives are really difficult. They keep getting harder and harder. Our generation, well, I guess, I mean, I'm a young millennial, but we don't expect to do better than our parents or anything. So do you feel like you just tap into that, or have you been successful in finding other common ground areas?
Oh, 100%. The common ground areas is accountability first. So one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I did a video about a year and a half ago where I was like, let's list them out in the comments. You guys, all of you, name something that you think is this overlapping struggle, this intersecting pain point that we have politically.
Mhm.
And I made this whole Excel spreadsheet, and the list got too big because then you see how nuanced some of these things are. It's like, well, technically I could merge these three together, and that's kind of the same issue.
Right.
But by and large, the ones that came in over and over again was money out of elections.
Hmm.
Elections, like corporations, shouldn't be a person, which
Hmm.
takes us directly to Citizens United. To the people who knew what Citizens United was, they were like, yes, let's undo corporate personhood.
Yeah.
um Gerrymandering, let's just keep the districts like as
As
they
they're.
are, like population based. That was another one. A lot of it comes down to election reform
Yeah.
is
And it
like the
all seems
generalized
so
term.
it all seems so common sense too, and I'm curious where you feel like the Young Turks have been working a lot on their like populist plank, and they have this subset called the Wolf Pack that's kind of dedicated to trying to overturn Citizens United. Have you heard about those movements? Do you feel like there's any steam behind it?
The person that I lean into is Tiffany Cianci when I talk about what needs to happen with Citizens United. And she was holding some town halls during the election, and we had RFK Jr. on the TikTok panel with us. And we sort of pressed him on it. Is like, you're a lawyer, like you've been in this like law fair space in, your whole life. So what do we do? And it really does take an actual like Supreme Court decision, as far as I know. Like that's the part that it gets really foggy to me. Is like,
Mm-hmm.
who exactly do we need to put pressure on in order to make this happen?
So that is why I find the wolf pack interesting, because there's a way that you can constitutionally amend something like that by getting three-quarters, I believe, of the states to vote the same way on it. So
Like a
in that
convention of
way,
states?
yeah, basically. So you can put pressure on your state legislators, which is, I think, a lot more feasible than like trying to get Congress to agree to it, or, to try to challenge it in court or something like that. But to my knowledge, the only other way to do it, and that's what the Wolf Pack works on. I tried to get involved with the Wolf Pack. Like I said, it's like a subset of the Young Turks, I guess. Cenk like
Hmm.
founded it or something.
Hmm.
But it's all through Discord, and I kind of despise
Me
Discord. I have
too.
a really hard time keeping track of messages on there.
Me too.
And so that's the whole other problem with just like getting a coalition together and getting everybody to like move in the same direction, because there's so many directions to go in. It's like, what do I put my energy into? What's accessible for everybody? Because I mean, if I was an older person, I definitely wouldn't want to go on Discord. Are you kidding me? I can't even keep track, and I'm 29.
Yeah, I'm 40. I sound like Bane, but it's like I was born in the internet. Like I'm used to checking
Grew up through
notifications in a
this.
gazillion places, but for some reason Discord is not fun for me.
The
It's
channels are
overwhelming.
overwhelming and confusing
Yep.
for me. It's so hard to like go back to any type of resource. I'm a big like information sharer and like reader, I guess. So if I see something that's like a document, I want to go back and be able to read it and refer to it. And if I'm talking to somebody about something, I want to be able to share that with them. But yeah, it was a challenge. But the idea of being able to amend it through three-quarters of the states, I think, is really interesting. Because I think if we're going to get anywhere, Citizens United definitely is going to have to be somehow overturned. But I also saw something really interesting about the fact that corporate powers and business powers are all awarded by states individually. So technically, you could legislate the ability out for them to actually be able to donate to political campaigns. So those are two different avenues that we could take.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing because when I first got on TikTok, there was this sort of left-leaning paranoia around the Convention of States,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a group that refers to themselves as the Convention of States, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're largely like kind of more of a right-leaning, right-wing type of group.
Yep.
Um, and so there was like this sort of alarmist boogeyman vibe around it. But I had to remind everyone, well, hey, it's just a tool. But
Mm-hmm.
again, it always takes me back to the same thing, which goes back to the core of my channel, which is everybody's got a great plan,
Mm-hmm.
and it always starts the same way. Got to get everybody together. and
Mhm.
then we're going to ABC. I've said it a gazillion times on my channel, and that first step is the one that nobody else wants to talk about. And if they do, the idea of collaboration and cooperation on a single focused goal
Mhm.
is hard for so many people to wrap their brains around.
Yeah.
The people who get it, and they
Mhm.
find themselves in my channel, and I find myself in theirs and ours and each other's, and the community is growing, and that feels good.
Mhm.
Um, but even the best and brightest minds, I don't hear them talking about that the mending of trust in
Mhm.
this country. Like, we've been burned so much by bosses, relationships,
Mhm.
politicians. Like, there's just a severe distrust happening
Totally.
on a crazy epic level in this country. And I think it's affecting our ability to believe in ourselves, our lovers, partners, families, jobs, institutions, pharmaceuticals,
Mhm.
energy, agriculture, food, the groceries.
Doctors.
Yeah,
Like,
everything, top to
yeah.
bottom, everyone is like,
You can't think
they
of
have an
any trust.
institutional ick. Sorry.
Absolutely. There, no, there's, you're right. And I actually, I periodically start writing books, and obviously, I have a 4-year-old, so obviously, I don't get very far in the book before I have to be a mom and a wife and everything like that and work a full-time
Know the
job. But
feeling.
I started, and the name of it was Trust Issues, and I just feel like it just encompasses everything. People have relationship issues. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust their own intuition. They don't trust doctors. They don't trust their family members. I mean, a
And
weird
fair enough, right?
yeah, yeah, fair enough, but like this is a weird kind of branch off, but have you noticed how many people are going like no contact with their families, and does that kind of feel like a hurdle for localism? Because the thing is, when you're going to be a part of a big local community, it's going to be messy sometimes. Some people are going to say things that upset or offend you. You need to be able to get over that strong I need to protect my peace reaction to be like life's not peaceful. You need to get over it and kind of
Uh,
remember why you
yeah.
have the relationship in the first place, you know?
That's right. That's the human element. I just had this conversation with my daughter last night. Her and her cousin are very, very close, like constantly chilling and hanging out.
Mhm.
So they're bickering, right? And she
Yeah.
said, "Well, I have to tell you the truth about something, Dad. She just kept talking trash, and so I didn't punch her in the head." And I'm like, "Oh God, no! Like,
Good.
dude, like this is not what we do, you know." And I'm keeping cool though, keeping my cool.
Mhm.
And she's like, "But I stopped myself, and so it was just kind of like my hand was here, and then I like pushed, if that makes sense." But she acted so dramatic, and it got bad, and Mom was mad, and I'm like, "Listen, dude." The people you love the most are the ones that you get to practice resolution with. Like,
Mhm.
who better to test you to your core? I mean, you've got a 4-year old, right?
Mhm.
And my
Mhm.
daughter's 8 now. I love her on a level that I've never loved anything before. It's
Mhm.
indescribable, right? But
Mhm.
parallel to that is she's also
The
frustrated
anger.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like frustrated me at the deepest levels.
Yeah.
But in that, that's what's forced me to grow and to confront, okay, well then why does this make me uncomfortable?
Mhm.
Why am I feeling so impatient? Why am I so irritated? And it forces me to look in the mirror before I condemn her. And
Yeah.
this very simple act is fundamental to human existence, right? And so you say it is a hurdle to localism, and that, God, this is brilliant. I'm so glad I decided to do this with you because you're touching on some of the absolute core elements of my channel. People have called me MAGA coded for whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. Sorry if I drop
Mhm.
F bombs in
No, it's
advance.
totally fine.
Um, I'm trying to watch myself these days. But they've called me MAGA coded because I'm trying to say that, like, personal accountability, strength in romantic
Yeah.
relationships, and platonic friend and family, like, that's your crew.
Yeah.
And if you can't maintain that, what makes you think you could have a merry band of pirates in the realm of like an anarchist communist revolution?
Yeah,
You think
what's
you're going to
keeping
keep
you
that?
together? They're gonna
Yeah,
turn on you. I mean,
you
is there no loyalty?
there's no loyalty. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Mhm.
that goes to that trust is like deep down we all know that we're deeply distrustful of the world around us. And
Mhm.
so in order for any of this to work, and I would say not just localism, I say just prosperity in general, like
Mhm.
a thriving human race depends on our connections, our relationship to one
Absolutely.
another.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's something that for some reason we've known professionally for a long time, that our professional success relies heavily on our network. So it's something we know. And I do think that for some reason, I feel like I keep latching on to this idea that somebody who is a parent, like parents seem to get the idea of localism, community, building a village a little bit more because you kind of inherently know you can't just abandon your kid or your partner when you get, angry in a day. That you're also thinking about the future for your kid and everything, and like, what
That's
are
right.
these systems going to look like? I mean, obviously everybody gets a little existential, but it's different for parents because you can't just think about like, what's my life going to look like? It's like, if I have kids and grandkids and everything like that, what is their life going to look like? Because
Yeah.
everybody still says, I just want my kids to have a good life. I want them to be able to get a good education, get a good job, have a family, whatever. That looks entirely different today than it did,
Sure. Yeah, and
even
it's
10
it's
years
not
ago.
that I don't think it's that you need to have kids in order to understand this whole like planting seeds for trees
Mm-hmm.
that you don't get to enjoy the shade of. I just think that it's the most like visceral, right in front of your
Most
face way
painful.
to understand that like life's going to go on after you, and
Yeah.
what you do here now will play a part in what life is like for them after you're gone. And I think kids are just a very sobering, very real way of understanding that very ancient concept, for
Mm-hmm.
sure, for sure. And I
It's,
think if we want to restore that, I think it takes bravery. It takes like first movers,
mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think education is a good place to start with that too. Do you feel like the education system is trying to, like, in any way? Because you mentioned that you put your daughter in Montessori school, so that was something that you did a little bit differently. What made you decide to do that for your own personal situation?
I I have known my whole life that I didn't like government education. I was a slacker hard in high school. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be there. I
Hmm.
missed all my homework assignments, and then I'd show up and get a 98% on the test.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't come again for four
Yeah.
days. I hated, hated being there. And the idea of putting my daughter into a school like that was breaking my heart. But I will say that her teachers at the local like public school
Hmm.
were beautiful people,
Yeah.
busting their asses,
The best
underfunded,
people.
underpaid, underappreciated. But
Hmm.
being in that building at a desk under the fluorescents doing that style of curriculum was sucking my daughter's soul out, and I could see it very apparently just coming out at the end of the day like
Hmm.
exhausted and just low energy.
Yeah.
And now when I'm picking her up from the Montessori, they're smaller classes,
Hmm.
the curriculum is delivered differently. There's a
Hmm.
lot more autonomy given to them and creative freedom, and her energy levels are extremely different.
Mm.
And she's only been there obviously since September, so it's been a couple months now, and then the difference is very, very noticeable.
Mm.
Very noticeable.
Yeah, so for me, I had no problem in school. I was one of those kids that like just really liked school and liked excelling at school. I lived for the praise that I got in school. My husband was like you, that he was like he's super intelligent and he did really well on all of his tests, but he didn't want to be there. He had an issue with authority, frankly. He just pushed back a lot on teachers, and I have quite a few friends like that. And I just think so. My kid is a boy, 4-year-old boy, and I'm just afraid of he's just a busybody, and I don't want to, make him have to sit down for 6, 7 hours a day and tell him that he's like there's something wrong with him for not being able to do that. So, to make a long story short, that's another thing that like I'm probably a little MAGA coded with if we're going to get into, people throwing that around, but a little school choice, a little pro school choice. And I don't know,
Absolutely.
have you heard at all of the organization Vela or Vila?
VELA? No, but I am at my
Yeah.
computer.
You should look it up. And I mean, I could even share it on the screen so it's in the recording and stuff. But it's really cool. It's a way to connect families to educators. And it's kind of like a Kickstarter, honestly, for education. And I thought that was neat. I don't know if
That
that,
is cool. I'll have
yeah,
to look into this.
yeah,
I'm seeing, but this is like one, which people ask me a lot. I talk about parallel systems on the channel,
right.
right?
Yeah,
This is that,
the
but
parallel system.
when they ask me for lists or like where can I go to learn, it's I'm like, you don't understand. Like this is quantum and unfolding in a gazillion different directions
Hmm.
every second of every day. Like so this is the way. And there's
Yeah.
homeschooling networks that are popping up. It's
And so that kind of leads me to the website that I made, because right now, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I whipped the website together pretty quickly because I was kind of like manic about it, but I think that it's off to a really, really good start about the idea of it. I want people to be able to search the area for solutions that are available around them, because it seems like sometimes I'll find things that I'm really interested in, and all of a sudden I realize it's in Arizona and I'm in New Hampshire. And I'm like, well, it doesn't help me tremendously. But,
that's right.
and also just being able to see the gaps in the community. I think having the map to know, like, okay, we've got a whole bunch of lawyers, but we don't have any plumbers or anything like that to like fill a gap vocationally. I just think that there's so many opportunities with just knowing what exists in your community and how you can contribute. Part of what I built into the website was like an IOU option, and I think that that's
Saw that.
important too. I think that's really cool, like if you're a lawyer, you can do business filing documents for a local business and say, I'll take some merchandise or a discount or something, or whatever, get me when you get me, or don't. It's fine. You can do services for your community without expecting anything in return. I think a lot of people have gotten away from volunteering too, and that's always something that I've loved to do. So I'm trying to think of ways to connect the community back to that, but I feel like sometimes it's like a value type of thing, and people are tired, they work full time and they've got their families and everything. So I'm like, wondering what will bring people to a platform like this. Like, what's the buy-in?
There's so much in this conversation that I love. Okay, but my brain is so scattered. I need a pen so that
Me
I keep
too.
track of
Yeah, I
this.
was gonna say I'm taking down little notes. I want you to spell out Tiffany Cianci for me later too, because you mentioned her and I just took a
Yep.
shot in the dark with her
Uh,
first name.
it's Ciani. Tiffany is with a Y.
So is it
And
Cinci or
CIA. I always give her grief about having those three letters as the first three letters of her last name.
okay?
Cianci.
Okay, I spelled it right. Cool. I
Yep,
got it.
Cianci. Yep, she's the has an incredible story. It's so crazy. Highly recommend people looking at it. She's a champion for small businesses fighting against like arbitration
Mm,
and higher courts, helping to
awesome.
protect small businesses against giant private equity firms that have teams
We
of
need
lawyers
that.
of yeah, blah blah
We
blah,
need that.
all
We
that
need a
stuff.
lot of like volunteer lawyers. And I know that's a big ask, but at the same time it's like you are like the highest protection that communities have against basically extortion of resources and
Which is absolutely what's happening.
abuse of laws.
So here's the thing I love about what I'm seeing in this. What you're talking about is building a sort of yellow pages, but also sort of you're old enough to remember yellow pages, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, just checking. I
Didn't
have to
use them
remember.
much, but I remember.
I have to remember that I am officially at that age. Anyway, so what we're talking about is networking and displaying. So we need to
Hmm.
display these businesses and we need to network them together so that people can find this one's still open.
Hmm.
Are these positions still available? Is this information up to date? Is it accurate? All that kind of stuff. That's what chambers of commerce and economic development corporations, along with municipalities, like there are already like agencies sort of in place. So again, what you're doing right here is a parallel system.
Yeah. And it's so
You're
hard because then so many separate parallel systems exist, and it's like, okay, if we could just bring it somehow together.
bring all these individual communities together into a state and then form a state, a union out of those states.
If only somebody could give us some
If only
land
we
and
had a
some
framework for
laws.
how that was supposed to all work,
Yeah, it's so
But
weird.
again, gotta be careful because that's also MAGA coded. So yeah, so when we talk about this, I love the idea of this because this though is regenerative system first, because I think that's the main crux is, do we want extractive systems that pull things away, remove the resources, remove the people's wealth and time and so on and so on, and extract it to some faraway place? Or do we want something that's regenerative? And so we see that in ESOPs and other environmentally like forward types of groups that address more than just climate change. That is, they're very specific about the types of things they're tackling as far as pollution of certain watersheds, tributaries, so on and so on. They're very specific about it. I like them more than the blanket climate crisis crew. So what I want to see and how we get people invested in this is proof of concept, right? It's always going to be first movers. And so to get people who are already winning, like we always talk about our buddy Lawrence from Farm Fresh 24/7, because he was someone I found like organically, and that's his TikTok handle. It's collectivelysustainable.org. I believe it's a .org. I think it's .org, .com, .org, but it's collectively sustainable. And so he's going and starting these community groups where they get together and show people how to transform their lawns into food production plots. He doesn't call them gardens, right? Food production plots. And then there's an app to back it up where people can barter and trade. We have zucchini, you make bread, we have this, so on and so on and so on. And so that's an example of something that's growing, and now he's emerging into other markets. He's leaving Atlanta, and now we see a list of places where they're starting new seed groups. I would say seed group, pun intended, but so if you're in Cleveland and it's coming to Cleveland again, the app might be a little bare.
Yeah.
Right. And same with what the free market local is doing. It's like, for now, as I'm looking around at like the DIY education section, which I think is brilliant, it's essentially a funnel. And so getting it to be populated,
That's the challenge, of course.
that's the challenge. Yeah, but I think it doesn't negate its importance, because it could be a sleeper for 6 months,
Totally. Yeah. No, I don't
a
think,
year,
it definitely doesn't need to like die a slow death because I don't get everybody on in a week or anything like that. I think just the
Right.
the idea of it for me too, and I think a lot about crafters too. I'm a big artisan buyer. Like I like to buy like hand blown glass things when I try to buy glasses and pottery and things like that, handmade clothes when I can help it. So I like the fact that you mentioned somebody who's already doing it on the food side, basically saying like, I have these farm products, we can barter. And I
That's
think
right.
that in the beginning of the internet and everything, like you wouldn't really like turn down being on any directory. So I mean, it's kind of something that it's like, yes, you can be found through that app, and you can also be found by somebody who, you know, makes, I don't know, what do you want? Makes blankets. You want a blanket, you'll trade them for some banana
I
bread or
always go
something.
off on cobblers. I want cobblers. Bring back the cobbler. Not the pastry, the shoemaker.
A shoe cobbler? That's amazing. Yes. No. Oh my God. See, that's
Although
how
I like
underrelated
blueberry cobbler,
cobblers
don't
are.
get me wrong. I'll take either or.
All
I'm a
cobblers
fan
are
of some
great.
blueberry. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, you're
But,
so right.
and I think the way that you could get this populated is that I would actually try to do it organically. Like if this was its own channel on TikTok, for example, or any of the other platforms, you could specifically try to drive Chamber of Commerce professionals and other like IRN, International Referral Network, like those realtors, those smaller businesses, lawyers. You get graphic designers, even, or
Yep.
bakery
That's
shop owners,
the
thrift
hope.
store owners. They all go to those types of things, and you can kind of plug into them and say, this isn't a copy of what you're already doing, because its intent is to help people funnel specifically to locally owned, family owned, founder owned, reputable businesses, or products or services, or however that might look, or even just trustworthy education. Like, so somebody like Lawrence, for your tutorial thing, it might be an easy plug to be like, well, how do you XYZ? Well, head over to Collectively Sustainable. And this is what's cool about the Take It Back movement too, is the more of those like Black Out the System and those guys, the more I see those movements pop up, I always tell them, your movement's important, but not because of its mission statement,
Mm-hmm.
just its existence.
Yeah.
Because one movement here, one movement there, here, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually you get enough of that it's very easy to be like, hey, and they all collectively go, what? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's a long process. That's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So when you earlier mentioned about Republican, Democrat, middle ground, what's the overlap? Is this the path? Like, I'm just trying to get people to look in this direction.
Yeah.
It's a great con for me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really care about your isms. It's just like, oh, that's nice. Have you seen this?
I
You know?
also think it's a safety net, and we need to talk about that too, because it's like where there are changes in funding and grants and things like that, there are, people might have previously had access to like loan funding or grant funding that they might not have access to, because if things are going to change so quickly, you're going to have to rely on something. So maybe you can rely on somebody from the community coming in and helping without being like an actual employee, so that you can get through your season and everything if they have the time and ability to do that. Pay them in products or something like that. Just to be able to lean on the community and know that there's some type of safety net if suddenly you're $50,000 shorter in the budget because you couldn't get a loan that you used to get or a grant that you used to get every year. I think that those safety nets are pretty important to set up before people need it, because you can cushion the pain a little bit. This is such a stupid aside, but might as well just add it. I keep hearing the soybean farmers saying, what am I supposed to do with all these soybeans? And I'm thinking to myself, does nobody in the US know how to make soy sauce and miso? Because it lasts forever. Why can't we just, somebody in the US can't make that? I mean, it doesn't last forever, but it lasts a really long
Yeah.
time. It seems like all of our miso and soy sauce is not made here.
It's because the systems that are in place don't allow for people to just switch lanes.
Yeah.
In their mind, they believe it to be that. I'm from a town that's called the Maple City. And I'm like, what are we doing with the maple? There's maple woods, beautiful wood. There's
Mm-hmm.
maple syrup. You could make whiskey because Tennessee style whiskey is filtered through charred maple.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a distinct thing. So it's like all these, but what I'm talking about there is industriousness.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part to me. Like, I love these directories, I love these things, but what I'm really looking for are parallel pioneers.
Yeah.
That's the goal of my channel right now, is to connect like these chamber of commerce, like this old world institution type people, your
Mm-hmm.
mayors, city council, commissioners, auditors, the people who already were trying to do what we're talking about doing,
Yeah.
which is maintain a healthy and vibrant civilization.
Yeah.
But it's kind of failing because it's been extorted out from underneath of us over
Mm-hmm.
time. And so, but bridging it over into this new world and this new space so that we can see exactly like what's needed in this town, this municipality, um, and we're not repeating efforts.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the big thing for me, is like, what we want already should have existed, and there are currently people who go to work every single day thinking they're doing exactly what we're talking about
Right.
doing, even though it's no longer working, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm just trying to flip people's like light switches on to this, because that revolution starts to happen quickly, but
Mm-hmm.
it requires industriousness. It requires people to start the website, start the summer program, start that business,
Mm-hmm.
right? Start that co-op.
Which again is like a whole thing that you can add value. Like for me, I believe me, I wish that I could be a maker and actually like make music and make, you know, products. Really, it's just not really my thing, but I'm very good at organizing. I'm very good at, you know, I guess presenting more or less and doing the business side of things. I have an MBA, so I'm the business background basically. So I'm like, I
Sure.
know I can help somebody with that because there's a lot of people who struggle with that. It's just I don't know how to find them. That's kind of the thing, you know? I'm like, I just need to find the people who need my help. But I think that too often people are like, well, I don't know how to do that. And then the idea goes away and says, well, I can't do it. And it's like, well, imagine if you could find somebody to help you with that. And that was kind of my idea for the projects area on the website. It's kind of kind of like a Google Docs type of situation that you start a project and can get different contributors on board. And there's a lot of development to be made on that, but if you're a political candidate on the website, you can add documents like legislation and stuff. I think that there's a role for us to have like a competing organization to Alex that's helping legislators legislate and write legislation.
Absolutely. And
But
lobby. We could have a citizens
yeah,
lobby, you know?
exactly. And like it just feels like an easy, simple solution, but you need enough people behind it to actually make it go anywhere.
Got to get everybody together.
Got to get everybody together, or at least a couple people, and the problem is I
Enough.
can't. I mean, it'd be really nice if I could just like leave my job and dedicate my full time to it, but that's just not the world that we're set up to be in, really. So
It would take, it takes a lot. Like, I exited the workforce a long time ago, when I was still in college, and I've been a freelance artist since I was about 23. And so that's 17 years now. And I was still doing it before then, but like full time is the way that I keep myself alive. And that was a huge leap, and it comes with great costs, you
yeah.
know, and a great lack of security. But the liberation that it provides you is, you can see why the
Mm-hmm.
scales tip the way that they tip. Just depends on what's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I would add is, yes, you're the MBA. Yes, you might feel left brain, great presenter. You have these skills. But the one thing that I would ask, not just you, but humanity as a whole right now, is that what you are, or is that just what you have been?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's more of what I've been. I enjoyed craftiness and things like that. I enjoy the crafts, and I would actually probably do more of them if I had more time and more money, because the things are expensive too. You know what I love the idea of too is community like making centers. I don't know how
Third
else to
spaces,
explain it. Yeah, yeah, third spaces for sure. I mean, everything's
places
basically
to
just
hang
a
out.
restaurant now. Yeah, we don't even have a lot of good parks around
Yeah.
us anymore. So,
So as far as this localist thing, I wanted to add one more thing before we maybe switch gears. I don't know
yeah,
what you have in mind, but I think people forget that. Sorry if you can hear that.
okay.
Um, People forget why it's important. Like, I was talking with a lady who does the Kiwanis, and when I talk to kids, adults in their 20s or even in their teens, like, they don't know what those organizations are, or
Mm.
what they do, why they started, what their mission statements are. Kiwanis, Rotary, like even things like Freemasons and Oddfellow and the Elks and the Eagles, and like people don't really understand what they are. They think it's just a place for their where their grandpa goes or something.
Yeah.
And those have such a huge function. But here's this other layer of philosophy, that this is where I think I lose a lot of people, is because it requires us to leave like the paper and the stats and the data for a second, and to go into this very human realm of the unpredictableness of human connection. So the lady I was talking to, she's president of the Kiwanis. She moved to the area with her husband. They had been connected,
Mm-hmm.
and she gets voted in as the president. She's very honored. They're there for a little while, making beautiful friends, connecting with the people of the area, and then her husband passes away. Mind you, she's got to be 70s, 80s. I mean, it's hard for me to know. Um, but then she felt alone, and that thing that happens to people, like when you've spent your whole life with somebody and then they
Mm-hmm.
pass away, and
Mm-hmm.
like they say, within a year or two, that other person usually passes too, because
Mm-hmm.
like their whole life is just gone, obliterated.
Yeah.
And she started to tap into that with me when I was just asking her about, like, what are some of the off the paper reasons Kiwanis was important to you? Because I've really been trying to dig into these local organizations. And she said, after my husband passed away, the casseroles were on the porch. And there were people there dragging me out of my house, making sure
Mm-hmm.
I was going to bingo night or purse bingo or going to the zoo, or making sure they brought the grandkids over. Like, but it was that Kiwanis organization that really gave her that support system, that when we put it on the paper, we're like, okay, so mutual aid, check, and we've got
Yeah.
this, and they're the very like academic type things that it's like, sure, you can give it an academic definition, but that doesn't guarantee that you know how to create that.
No, absolutely
That
not. I think that was a weird thing that kind of the change in religion, I guess, is something that I've thought about a lot too, because I don't know why that disappeared, because it seems like you said it yourself. Your grandfather goes there to, hang out or whatever. And then it seems like it just kind of disappeared with, at least with my parents' generation. I'm like, why didn't you guys keep going to those places? Why did that disappear?
Because you always hate what your parents do, and then they used us as an excuse not to go because it's just such
Yeah.
a pain in the ass to get us ready on Sunday morning to go to church, and the kids don't want to go, and da 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 da, and we're tired, and they probably were over it too. But here's the critical thing, that as much as I can judge my parents for not doing that, so I was born in '85, my parents were born in the '60s, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I can judge them for not continuing to go to that and to keep those, let's go to the Knights of Columbus and do the pancake breakfast in the morning. The kids are going to volunteer. When you're 14, you're going to volunteer. You're doing the dishes on Sunday morning. And it's going to
Yeah.
teach you how to not be a lazy, POS or whatever. You're going to help out around here. And I can judge them for that, but only on one specific thing. I don't judge them for hating what their moms and dads did, because our moms and dads are cringe. I'm
Mm-hmm.
already cringe to my daughter. She's 8. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's coming. I
Yeah.
know I'm bound for Cringeville.
Yep.
But that just means you're supposed to take it, run with it, and do something new with it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just delete church. You can't just delete these community organizations. You can't just delete them. I don't care that people want to. Like,
Yeah.
if people are non-religious,
Oh,
like,
for sure. And
I,
that's
I don't care.
I think that's kind of where I had a hard time, because like I wasn't raised religious or anything like that. We would occasionally maybe go to church, around the holidays or something like that, but that was pretty much it. And I never thought like I was like missing anything, but I'm like I guess it is a community aspect, and so it doesn't matter how you get your community ultimately. Like if you get it, through a church, great. If you get it through a community organization like the Elks Club, like I cheered for the Elks or something, and I know quite a few people who still go to the Elks, lodge and everything, but they're
Heck yeah.
they're all older. They're all older. They're in their 60s and 70s, and it's like if we need new third spaces that are more geared towards our generation, that's fine. It's just I don't really see a lot of them crop up and be successful. I love the idea of a salon, like those old political salons that you would go
Yeah.
and chat and exchange ideas. I'm like that'd be so cool, but would it succeed? Not
It
without
just
localism.
depends. But it depends. You have to sit on it for a second, because there's the seed, right? We know what it's like,
Mhm.
but why does it matter now? And it's like the coffee shop that put a giant sandbox in the middle of it and put
Mhm.
remote control bulldozers in there, thinking that the kids can play with the remote control bulldozers in the sand pit while the parents can chat with their friends. But do you see a bunch of dads sitting there like
Yeah.
bulldozing? It's like,
Yeah.
me too, man. Like, what a stupid but awesome and totally creative way to be like, same old thing that grandma and grandpa did,
Mhm.
but or and you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And our parents' generation, I would say, starting with the late boomers, like your late 50s, early 60s boomers, through my mom's, who's like older Gen X, so like mid 60s through the late
Mhm.
70s. They hated that shit, and they didn't want to do it anymore, and they let it fall to the wayside, but then they didn't replace it. And then
Mhm.
my generation, zennials, older millennials, we didn't do it either, and now
Yeah.
we're in middle age. But luckily, people like me, I remember what it was like going there, being
Mhm.
in there. Bingo night on Friday, spaghetti dinner night on Tuesday, breakfast, pancake and sausage breakfast on Sunday morning after church. I was there. I remember it. And I remember seeing the same faces there, making friends with the kids that I only
Mhm.
saw there, playing games that we only played there. Then
Mhm.
those kids end up working on the same construction crews later in life,
Mhm.
working at the
Yeah.
same banks and the same hot. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that thing, that's civilization.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. And if we don't have those very like fertile small places for it, then we'll never we'll never get to where we're going. But here's the other thing. Some people's critique of this is like that's also where deep dark secrets happen. Sexual assault,
Mhm.
other travesties,
Yeah.
secrets is what I call them. That's where secrets happen. Yes, but we don't have to be like
Yeah.
other generations. It's like this is that thing that's that distrust.
And
It's
yet
like, well,
we
this all
know that
sounds
that
nice,
happened.
but
We all know that we watch our kids quite a bit closer now because of that. I mean, I think that at that time they trusted the priests, for example. I mean, that's my husband says that a lot. He's very skeptical of religion, and that's a big part of why he's like, I
Mhm.
don't trust it. And I'm like, well, that's an example of somebody who abused power, and unfortunately, they exist in every
Yep.
area of society. And, I think that it's important for us to have a framework of being able to recognize when that's happening and trust our gut because, sometimes we know, and we're a lot more, I think, we look closely, but things happen no matter what, which is, awful to think about. But we can protect ourselves from it. But as far as can we walk into a different area of the conversation too about building these third spaces? Would you be open to going there?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. That
Okay.
was yeah, yeah.
So I think you had on your channel at one point, it was, oh God, it was like a fund that had started. I think it was the Evergreen Fund, if I'm remembering correctly. And it
The
was
Evergreen Cooperatives. Yep,
yeah,
out of Ohio.
yeah, and so they basically had an investment fund that invested in the communities. But I know that they did other things too. They had like an actual business that they ran too. I think it was like a cleaning type of business or something like that. But they also had this fund. And that fund interests me a lot too. That's also something I was trying to kind of build into the website. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for growth where we see our financial system literally falling apart in front of us. I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of exit the system a little bit, especially where you see people getting laid off from their jobs, and ultimately you're going to have access to that 401k money and everything, and putting it in a fund that is managed by community members, and it goes to buying
Right.
real estate in the community, resources in the community. I mean, how often do we see things like public water resources being sold to like a random corporation? Like just where I live, I think a Chinese company bought like a water source. And we all inherently are like, we don't like that. We would like to own our own water, but all we have to potentially do that is our taxes, and we don't have our taxes. It's not like they're just sitting in a little fund, ready to spend on what the community agrees to spend on. That's not really how it works. So,
100%.
unfortunately. So, do you think investment funds, like community investment funds, might be a direction that we might be able to go?
The short answer is yes. I have to learn to give the short answer first.
Hmm.
Short answer first. The short answer is yes. But here's the other thing. Right now we're in the Wild West. Like in the 90s, to say that, we really need to get back to bartering or trade and bartering. So this
Yeah.
idea of trade and bartering has always been kind of kicked around the cultural landscape, but we're in an actual phase right now where we're watching the old monetary system. It's not crashing, it's not burning. It
No.
gives that illusion because it's molting. It's
Yeah.
shedding its skin, and we're seeing a digital currency, because fiat currency was this like bridge between a gold backed currency and digital currency. It was always meant to be that, because once we were on fiat currency, the
Hmm.
conspiracy crowds were like, well, it's just zeros and ones on a screen. It's just not even real. Like, what are these dollars,
Hmm.
And fair enough, right? And so now that I think that was always meant to be. I don't know if it was planned that way, but it seems that it's the perfect bridge to digital currency. Why is that important? Because we're in the Wild West.
Hmm.
We're seeing tokens pop up here. What is it? Ethereum? Is it Bitcoin at first? And then there was all these other coins, Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, and all that stuff. So it's so wild. But the important part is that people realize that this has value because we say it has value.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
on a philosophical, existential level, that's crucial. So, what does it mean to have value? What does it mean to have collective agency and wealth? So, an investment fund, yes, one of
Hmm.
many on a giant pie chart of, I think, effective moves that we can make. But another one to add to the list of how do you get buy in?
Hmm.
How do you get everybody to
Yeah.
move lockstep? And what I'm finding is that we may have to have a totalitarian one world government with AI driven Terminator robots on the streets before people want to talk about unity. I don't want that to be the case, but
Yeah.
it's starting to feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if people are just in a numb place right now. I mean, obviously, there are definitely days that I feel a little bit more numb than others. I mean, you get a lot of fatigue from it, just seeing the news being what it
Yeah.
is. It can be really overwhelming, but
Yeah.
it's hard to convince people that this is the time before everything is actually falling apart to build the systems. But like, that's the important thing with it. And I
Hmm.
don't, because I agree with you that it's valuable because we say it's valuable, and that is something that seems to escape people, but I don't really get how it escapes people because we have all of these coins, right? Like all these digital currency coins. I'm like, this is speculation. It's worth only what it's worth because people are buying it and mining it. It's not actually what it's, to your point, a bunch of numbers on a screen basically. It's a little flipping chip basically. Did you end up I had sent you a message saying, have you ever heard of the Sovereign Network? Did you end up looking that up at all?
I feel like didn't look it up after you said that, but now that you've said it again,
So it's an interesting
it
thing.
sounds familiar.
There's a guy named Seth who is basically building a mesh platform network that,
Yes,
yeah.
like the red mesh sort of thing that you see in New York that they're doing.
See, this is where a lot of it escapes me because it's the technical aspect that he explains, but basically the idea is that you don't like need to pay for internet, and that instead of paying for internet, the internet would pay you, which
Oh no, that's right.
for some reason resonates with me and makes sense to me because we are constantly in a world now that we talk about one of the most valuable things that we can offer to our overlords is our data. And it seems like it makes no sense that we pay people to take our data by paying for internet services and subscriptions. Why not own our own data?
Because the data isn't defined by our legal system in such a way to where it would make sense for us to have an autonomous control over it. Because like my blood is my blood and we can verify that it's my blood, but the data as we know it to be is an algorithmic display of something representative of our time within these internet spaces,
Mm-hmm.
that's proprietary because of the way that it's gathered from us.
Mm.
Jesus, that's convoluted as hell. Does that make sense?
It,
Like,
it
because of the
does.
way that the data is extrapolated from us, you have to use proprietary software and means in order to get and produce that data.
Because
So,
our internet,
therefore,
yeah, because our internet is built the way that it is and it goes to the different, like, Googles and,
the nodes, yeah,
yeah, whoever, yes, the nodes. And so that is, we know that there needs to be some technology that could redirect that data. And I mean, the reason why they want the data is for marketing information and to code their AI computers and everything like that. Like, it seems inherently like this is valuable information that, like,
yes.
should be publicly owned. So that's why I'm so interested in the Sovereign Network. Unfortunately, I can't wrap my brain around the technical aspects. I'm going to keep working on that because I want to use his internet and make sure it works if I'm going to,
Same.
that's what I would like to do. And I mean, if it's actually secure, a lot of people push back and they say, well, you're promising UBI basically. Like, so what's the buy-in basically? He's like, that's the point. There is no buy-in. You use the internet, and because your computer is used as part of the node, the infrastructure, you get rewarded for that.
That's
You
right.
get UBI. But then unfortunately, that's the other thing that I've, talked to him about. I did another podcast with him that I had to upload on Spotify. I couldn't do it through YouTube because the visual just looked really bad. But basically we were talking about, well, you need people to buy into accepting your currency. And that's the biggest challenge, right? Like,
You mean you got to get everybody together?
you gotta get everybody together. Yeah. Yep.
Over and over again. That's why I'm the crazy haired, shirtless, manic psychopath. That like I wasn't always like this.
I
It's
wasn't
just that
always like
every
this.
single Every single time my young bleeding heart wanted to like, we're gonna do this and this is gonna work, and then all of a sudden you realize that nobody in these spaces has the capacity to get everybody together.
So I actually have a question, and we could probably, leave off on this because it's been a good conversation. It's been a long conversation. We should set up a follow up at some point. But I want to know,
Totally down.
where do you think like the take down the oligarchy, defeat the oligarchy type of tour, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Graham Plattner fit into all this? Because sometimes I like to think that they're not really part of the Democratic Republican Party of their, they kind of exist outside the system in a weird way too.
They're useful puppets.
Hmm.
They're useful puppets because it still says that trust us.
State sponsored something. Yeah.
Bingo. Bingo. And it always
At
feels
the
like they
end.
just want more extractive. Even if they want to redistribute equally what they extract, that's fine, but it's still extractive and it's not encouraging regenerative communities, which is
Yeah.
where my Captain Planet Fern Gully millennial heart wants to take it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I see everybody as a useful idiot, including myself. Like, and I
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure that I'm not a useful idiot for forces worse than me all the
Mm-hmm.
time. So when I look at groups like that, I'm very selfish. Can I rope the people that they're pulling toward them into this localist mindset?
Mm-hmm. I
Can I
think
get
that we
them
can
having this
embrace the
conversation?
message.
And
I think we can embrace the message and just frame it like I think that they've been basically saying because, these corporate billionaires are taking all of the money, you should redirect it to the state and we will redistribute the resources in a better way. And it's like maybe we agree with the message about what the problem is, but not the conclusion and the solution is. And I think just
that's it.
opening up more conversations, like I think that Graham Plattner is an interesting person. He's running in Maine. I think I am getting his name right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think he's interesting because I think if you get more people who are running for Congress that have the same idea about what the issue is, but maybe out, different solutions, otherwise I think it's hard for any type of national politician to not somehow fall in the bucket of, you know, useful puppets trying to redirect resources to the federal government.
that's
Localism
that's it.
probably inherently is a little bit more libertarian and like small government, which is not bad. You just need national politicians that will say that.
It's minarchism,
Yeah.
essentially, which is what the more I look into this country's founding, not that I'm one of these people that also holds that on some like I don't have reverence for anything. Like I'm not that person. Um, but when I look at the value of what this country was supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
at its core, it's minarchism,
Mm.
right? Watershed governments bound together by the full faith and credit of the union. And that gets messy. And so,
Especially when it's this big now. It was much smaller at that time.
but hasn't it always been messy?
Yeah.
It's like all throughout human history, we're just messy creatures. And
Nobody wants to compromise now, I think. That's a challenge.
but have they ever?
Well,
When it
what
really
they
mattered for
did, they
certain
did
groups.
compromise. That's the thing. I mean, even the writers of the Declaration of Independence, it was like, well, I don't think that should be in there. And they said, oh, fine. Fine, we'll just lose it or
Fuck it. It's
whatever.
not
It's the
not that
signature.
important, but then there's whole groups of people deleted that
Yeah.
don't have a say in the history books, you know? Like
Yeah.
just over and over again. Like we're failing upwards, hopefully upwards. That's where I'm
Hopefully.
optimistic, is that we're
Yeah.
failing upwards all the time. But localism to me is yes, let's get more power back to the local municipalities and the
Hmm.
local state governments. But that inherently means that we need buy-in from the people that live in those communities, not just as political agents, but as economic engineers as well.
Yeah.
Like that's the big part for me is you got to take the risk. I'm
Yeah.
in a business mastermind group, and our big thing is just pushing people off of that cliff.
Hmm.
Everyone's like looking down, well, that's scary. What about my security and my paycheck? And we're like, I know, right?
Yeah.
Boom. Like, you will learn to fly on your way down. And so many people have leaned into the cold comfort of the corporate office
Yeah.
because of this false sense of security that I hate to break it to the to middle America and white collar America, but they're coming for you too. And
Mm-hmm.
they'll fire your ass as quickly as they fired my dad from the factory floor.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming. It's
Mm-hmm.
just taking longer to get to them
Yep.
because those industries were largely protected. But we're reaching an era where those white collar positions will be done by AI. Your
Mm-hmm.
paralegals will be gone. So many different analysts are going to be gone, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be perfect. It'll be as messy as humans are. But what I'm trying to tell people is the only antidote I see is by us being resilient in our local communities, the same way we would be after a natural disaster.
Yeah.
Let's just do that stuff now and start building that cultural goo, as I like to call it.
Yep.
Let's start curating that cultural goo now before we need it,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And maybe we can pass off a better world to our kids here in, 20 years or so.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, I hope that somehow we succeed at bringing everybody together. You're
Got to
doing
get
a good
everybody
job.
together.
Thank you. I'm really glad that I came across your page and everything. And I mean, you've been doing this for a really long time. I appreciate some of the names and some of like the groups that I got from the interview too. So I'm probably going to ask for more. You don't have like a long
Mondragon.
list, or you
Mondragon's another one. I have a list.
you got a whole list? Because I'll just take the list, not
I don't have it
bother
like
you.
typed out, but I have it in my. I think Evergreen Cooperatives is a good place, and
Mm-hmm.
Mondragon, it's from the Basque region in Spain. It started in like the 50s, um, but really in the 90s it starts to take shape as like a conglomerate of employee-owned cooperatives,
Ah, okay.
right? And
Yeah.
so ESOP is employee stake or share. It's kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
Share option program, and so this is where I'd like to leave off the conversation. I think this is the most impactful way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you talk to a fiscal conservative or a socialist, liberal,
Mm-hmm.
they understand how important it is for the employees to have buy-in in the company. So when
Yeah.
you really lay out what an ESOP is, you not only get more productivity, you get more employee buy-in, and the lifespan of that employee is longer and they're happier. They're
Mm-hmm.
excited to be there. They're excited to do a good job because then when the boss comes down and says the quarterly reports are up, that doesn't just mean he's getting a new
Yeah.
motorcycle. That means everybody's going to be doing everybody's doing well
Yeah.
because the business is doing well.
Yeah, and
It's a
it's a
very
healthier
clear,
organization long term too.
healthy. And so now let's take that and transpose that on top of what country we were supposed to have
Mm.
and what taxes we're supposed to do. We were
Yeah.
supposed to be stakeholders in this country,
Yes.
and we've all but been removed from the economic stakeholder and the political stakeholder
Yeah.
position, and we are essentially cattle
Yeah.
as of this point. So
Yeah.
I think it's important if we can understand why ESOPs are important because it makes people excited about the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got all these politicians like, well, how do we get kids excited about this country and believing in patriotism? Pay them.
Mm.
Pay them. Give them a stake in this country. That's what was
Stop
supposed to happen.
cannibalizing
And
all of the things that are good too. Private equity is like a literal leech on our society. The fact that I think, God, what did I hear the other day? There's more public equity firms than schools, I think, in the country, which is horrific. That is
it's
horrific.
gross.
Yeah.
It's shareholder supremacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That no matter
Exactly.
what, doesn't matter what's in the food dye, it's cheaper than using beets and beet
Exactly.
juice to turn it red. So do that. Like,
Yeah.
because the profits in the quarterly reports, the profits, it's like as long as we chase that, we are going to lose. And that's not just capitalism, that's sociopathic levels of greed
Yeah.
and dissociation from the value of human life. That's not any ism other than just evil shit ism.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
one thing to say that wealth is alluring. Like, I understand everybody wants money to do the fun things and stuff, but it's an entirely other thing when you're just willing to give up your morality and when you're just basically looking at a mom and pop's business and saying, I'm gonna take this onto my balance sheet, sell their real estate, sell everything piece by piece, and then it's all gone just for the returns of the shareholders. I'm like, that's
That's
soulless.
evil. Yeah.
Yeah, that is soulless. It needs to come back to a human-centric system, and if we can't get that, everybody can punch numbers and get bigger numbers. Number go up is not like a complicated thing. It's just not good for society. Never has been, never will be. So.
No, but I believe in us. And I think it's just, it starts in these small, and this is where I aligned with Marianne Williamson more during the campaign trail.
Mhm.
People kept giving her shit for being like a spiritual woo-woo
No,
type
I liked
person.
her too for certain things too. Everybody has a good point at some point or another.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I liked how human she was
Hmm.
about it all, where it's like, we have to just in our small and seemingly meaningless acts, like joking with the gas station person or like joking with people at the grocery store line, offering to watch your kids, your friends' kids, so that they can go have their first date night in 3 years
Yeah.
before they like grow so bitter they get a divorce and their whole
Hmm.
family implodes. Like
Hmm.
little tiny things like that, to me, are the foundations of what any healthy society is, whether it's localism or
Hmm.
communism. So like none of that shit matters to me. That glue of just being a good human being, like
Hmm.
that's really what's missing.
Yep.
Capitalism's broken or functioning as intended, or it's the fascist Republicans or the communist. Like, guys, it's just we have no human decency
Hmm.
anymore, and we're
Hmm.
so
We don't want
isolated
to
and
help each
separated.
other.
No, not at all.
Go help a
And
friend
because
clean their house or something.
yeah, or like if you do make too much food,
Bring a
use some
meal
of the
over.
your disastrously organized Tupperware drawer and take one of them out and give it to your friends, like
Yeah.
it's so simple and people think they like give me this look. They like look at me like people are dying out there, dude, and do you want people to deliver casseroles to their friends and you think that'll change? Yes.
Yeah, I do. I
Yes,
do
I do
actually
believe
think
it.
it'll change something for someone. You can't
It
solve
just
every problem in the world, and if you just decide not to do anything because you can't do everything, then where's that going to bring us? I'm
it just
sorry, your
built
comment on
trust.
TikTok is not going to save the people from dying. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly. Exactly. And it's just about rebuilding trust. If
Hmm.
I'm not a piece of shit and I do something really cool for you and I don't want anything in return, and maybe you don't even know that it was me that did it for you,
Hmm.
right? It's just like
And now you're more inclined to do that for somebody else, and that's the
it just
thing. It's the
spreads it.
whole
Yep, that's
pass
all.
it
And it
on.
just reminds us not everybody's a piece of shit.
Yeah. It's a good thing to remember, truly, because sometimes it can feel like, people are awful. And it's like, they're not. Most people
No,
are pretty great, actually. Most people,
that's
by and large.
exactly right. But if you spend too much time on the internet, it'd be really
Oh,
easy to believe that we're all monsters, you
yeah.
know?
Ain't
And
that
that
the truth?
sucks. It sucks.
Well, I thank you so much. It was a really good conversation, and I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you for making the time. I really do appreciate it.
Likewise, Haley, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
Toodaloo.